If we could fix one thing with your driver direction, it'd be less balls to the right.
Yeah.
Get used to the ball position being a little forward, the face pointed here, and when you hit, like looking just left of this, as if that's where you want that ball launching, like getting really focused in on the ball, launching it over this start line. Handle's a smidge high at setup. So like all things equal, I'd like to get the butt of the club more in line with the belt line in terms of the verticality of the shaft.
Okay.
The higher the handle is, the more likelihood of the push. The lower the handle would be, the more pull.
Okay.
So all things equal, we could lower the handle a touch.
Okay.
I like that ball position being more forward. We just neutralize your aiming a little bit. Yeah, beautiful. All right, so I've been waiting probably literally 10 years to find a right wrist training aid that I would fall in love with. I have this precision impact training aid that I have been testing now for the past couple of months to make sure I like it. This right wrist training aid, I'm telling you, I've tried them all, is unbelievable. You put this on your right wrist and you'll notice when I make a backswing, it gives me some auditory feedback and I can set my right wrist about as far back as I can, and it locks that angle in. And it enables you to create the right wrist bend during the backswing, and also because of this little ball here, I can go up and down when I do it. It's absolutely freaking brilliant, and I've been using this a lot. It's gonna help your impact a ton. You go down below, you click the little link down there for Precision Pro, and you grab one of these. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. There's a little coupon code in there, you get 20 bucks off. Keeping the right wrist bent back, okay, is the key. If we could fix one thing with your driver direction, it'd be less balls to the right.
Yeah.
Without obviously going in any kind of like over curve to the left. But the primary goal would be like less push fadey.
Less balls to the right in general, because I'll tend to, the only time I'll usually hit it left off target is if I try to draw it, I end up hooking it. And it'll just, or it'll be like that 5-iron that just started kind of left and then curved left.
Little pull draw.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's usually what happens.
Let's pull up like, let's say this one, right? Which would kind of be like a normal looking shot pattern as your misses. It's like ball starts a little to the right, curves a little bit farther to the right. You know, that's probably like just off, I mean, 81 feet, right? So 25 yards. So that's probably a little off the right in the rough. Not the end of the world, but obviously if we wanted to get it more towards straight. Now, some of the pieces that I would be looking at in terms of when the ball goes to the right, like if we simplify it into like club and golf ball, right? Club and ball. So if we looked at all this stuff and took all these things out of here, and we just looked at the club path and let's say the face 2 path, and we looked at just these things, we see on this one, our club path was 3.7 left, face 5.9 open, right? Now this one, obviously we hit to the left, so that relationship's gonna be a little bit different. And then this one to the right again, path 2.7 left, face 9.2 open. So the ones you hit to the right, like these two, and we look at club path and club face, the big problem there is face to path, right? Face is 5.9 open to the path. So when we're looking at that relative to a target line, and let's say like you didn't want to hit the ball to the right, and let's even say you wanted to play like a slight fade. Like I fade every tee shot. I think going to golf at our level and like trying to curve it, and frankly at any level, but trying to curve it both ways off a tee is usually a recipe for disaster with driver.
Yeah.
You know, usually one-way curves are easier to play.
Okay.
So like if you had a dog leg left, you would look at, hey, how far is it to the end of the fairway? Like what I would do, I'd still play the fade, and that just, I have a longer shot. That might not be a birdie hole for me. You know, that's fine.
Right.
Just like a back left or a back right pin, whatever, like I would kind of own one curve is my point here. So if you were having this shot, if I were you and I saw this shot, I would instantly try and problem solve and go, okay, why did this happen like club to ball? First things first. I know the face is open. Now there could be 20 reasons why that is. So then like, okay, step 2 is like, why is that face open? And then how do we get that more square to closed? And I also, if I wanted to eliminate a right miss off the tee without introducing a hook, the first part of this ball flight you want to control is the start line. So let's say you wanted to play a 10-yard fade. You would need to start the ball how far left?
10 yards.
10 yards, right? I was paying attention. So if that's what's most important first. If we took this, let's say this ball faded, curved 20 yards. But if it started 20 yards left, that's now
straight.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We'd take that. You might be like, hey, I might not want to curve it that much, whatever, but it's down the middle. So we want to focus on start line first things first.
Okay.
And then we can be like, okay, how do we take some of the curve off?
Okay.
So start line starts with intention. So if we were playing this fairway, let's say, and we just had this normal range, and we looked at this as our center line, the first thing is like being clear on where you want the ball to launch. And so if we wanted to play, let's just say a 5-yard fade, and we want the ball to launch about 5 yards to the left of the target, I would be very intentional about having a start line in front of me. So let's say that's about where you want that ball to launch, maybe a little less than that. Now, there's different ways to go through like how we would do this, but at the starting point, your club face would need to be lined up perpendicular to that golf club. Okay. So for example, let me borrow your club for a second.
Yep.
If you come in and your setup's here and I'm hitting it to the right and your club face is pointed on this line, that'd be like, okay, let's start with that. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Let's get the club face pointed here. Let's eliminate all of like the simple variables. And okay, what happens when I line up with my club face pointed at that? Even just with a square stance. Can I get the ball launching, at or left of the target? Eliminate the starting right. And the second thing that I would do is I would build in something in front of you that you had to miss. The second thing I would do when you practice is to have an object in your way, right? Quite literally like this.
Yeah.
So if we were to stand by this track, man, and you and I look at it, and you're kind of looking down your center line, and you would imagine this is like effectively like a wall that we need to start all the balls left of. I would be willing to bet, like when I do this with people, 90% of this, your brain will coordinate just by given the right task.
Okay.
So how do we eliminate a ball starting too far right is like we put something in the way. Now there's ways to do this that'll be like better, worse, easier, harder. You could just aim 80 degrees to the left. That's probably not functional.
No.
So we gotta like coordinate some pieces. But let's start with this first, with your driver, with this object in play, see if the TrackMan grabs it, where you're A, pointing your club face at the start line, and B, making sure it starts left of this, yeah?
Yep.
So let's take your setup there and just give you a couple of visuals with that first. Right. So if you point your club face at that club on the ground, does that look normal, left of normal, right of normal?
It looks left of normal for me.
Left normal. Show me what normal would feel like.
Like
Just reset for a second.
Probably.
Yeah, and to me, that loft of that club sits like right here.
Yep.
So I probably have that at kind of where the ball started. Maybe 5 yards right of the target line. So this would be like just left of the target line.
Yeah.
Now, in with that comes ball position. So if I look at where your ball position is, the more back the ball would be in your stance, the more the ball would launch to the right. The more forward it would be, the more it would launch to the left.
Yep.
Stock would be like underneath armpit, depending upon stance with inside left heel. So go ahead in there where you feel comfortable. So for you right now, this ball position is probably right in here. So maybe an inch farther back than normal.
Okay.
That also would be a piece that would launch to the right. So to make it easier to launch it to the left and miss this guy, I would probably move the ball position about an inch farther forward in your stance. So you would move you back.
So move back.
Yeah, attaboy, exactly.
Yeah.
So now relative to your upper body, that's more gonna be like underneath the armpit territory.
Okay.
So I wanna do 2 or 3 practice swings where you just literally get used to the ball position being a little forward, the face pointed here, and when you hit, like looking just left of this, as if that's where you want that ball launching, like getting really focused in on the ball, launching it over this start line. And then we'll look at the videos and talk through like the minutia stuff.
Okay.
But these would be like no-brainer things to do regardless of your swing to get the ball launching where we want.
Okay.
So let's do 2 or 3 practice swings. The ball position is forward compared to normal.
Yep.
The face feels pointed slightly left of normal.
It does. I feel like I'm closing it, but I know I'm not.
Yeah, close relative to where you were before.
Right.
And then right before you hit, just give a look right in here that you want that ball to launch.
Okay.
And then we'll just do a practice swing with the tee. Ball's forward, face is left, launching left of that object. Beautiful. Let's just do 2 more and then we'll put a ball on.
Lose my balance.
Just to give your brain a little visual. Ball positions forward, face is pointed left, launching left of the object. Good. Let's do 1 more. Ball positions forward, face is pointed left, launching left of that object. Cool. Now, I don't know if TrackMan's going to grab it with this thing in here,
Right.
but let's give it hell.
All right.
I'm going to move it a little farther to the right for your brain to just be semi-comfortable with
Just
it.
in case.
Yeah, let's try it.
All right.
Let's try it. So ball position slightly more forward.
I feel like that's more forward.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Face is pointed slightly to the left. And then you look up and launch it left of that object. Cool. Let's give it hell. Okay, grabbed it. Beautiful. So now, when we look at that, now that's a straight pull to the left.
Mm-hmm.
I would have bet my life that you would do that with that thing
Okay.
down the first one. That's very normal. But what we're looking to do is change some of these,
Okay.
right? So now our club path is still left.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do anything to change that. In fact, we aimed a little farther left, right, if anything. But the club face is now closed to the path, not open to the path. And that can be, again, that's partially ball position, partially just the face pointed left, and partially you just trying to miss that object.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we watch you in swing, handle's a smidge high at setup. So like all things equal, I'd like to get the butt of the club more in line with the belt line in terms of the verticality of the shaft.
Okay.
The higher the handle is, the more likelihood of the push. The lower the handle would be, the more pull.
Okay.
So all things equal, we could lower the handle a touch.
Okay.
I like that ball position being more forward. We just neutralize your aiming a little bit. That's not going to solve all the problems, but that's a starting point.
Okay.
Now, relative to where your shaft is there, we're going to see you go quite a bit under plane early, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you go under plane early, that stems from 2 things. One is excessive shoulder rotation and arm rotation. So basically, you go under plane and flat.
Okay.
That means like when you go back, your elbow, your left shoulder goes a little too high, and your left elbow points really far away from you, whereas that makes the shaft more flat, right? Pointed well outside the ball line.
Mm-hmm.
What more normal would be here would be the elbow pointed more down towards the ground,
Okay.
and the shaft would be like on or inside the ball line. So let's see if there's any good driver models here. If we were looking at his versus yours, and we look at him halfway back and you halfway back, there to here, see the difference in the shoulders, the elbow, and the shaft. Now, his is a little bit exaggerated, but just to give you an example, his shoulder pitch is a little more vertical, left shoulder more down. See, his elbow points more down towards the ground, and then the shaft angle is much more vertical.
Okay.
We have flat, so lack of tilt, left elbow away, and then the shaft going flat. Now, that could mean nothing as long as you come down fine. The problem is from there is like, what reaction is there going to be, if any, right? Any of these pieces that are earlier in the swing, it doesn't matter if they're perfect or not. It just depends on what's the reaction from there.
Right.
Now, your one reaction is you go a little bit across at the top.
Okay.
And then as we start to come down, you do a beautiful job of planing that back out. Very nice job of that. So I like a lot of what you do on the way through. There's some work, here, let me get out of this here.
Okay.
There's some work to do with some of the arm plane stuff in the follow through, but this is pretty darn good. I would lower the handle at the setup position. So I would go in line with the belt line here. That'd be piece number 1. The rest of the setup stuff I'm okay with. We go under and flat on the way back. I think you net out pretty darn good at the top. Pretty darn good here early coming down. So pretty close to back to parallel to the original plane line. Obviously the foot coming up early to help that, the knee and the hip.
Yeah. I've always done that.
Tracing the plane line pretty darn good. We got to check some of the context. So there's a little bit of work to do there with the inclination of the ground, the turning and the tilting.
Okay.
So like if I look at this here and we look at your, let's say, inclination of the ground, and we go through this, There's a little bit of cleanup work to do. You see the butt coming off the wall, right? That's like the turning and the tilting. And there's a little bit of work to do with the arm playing into the follow through. But I frankly, I'd be pretty happy with a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
What I would do is clean up these setup pieces first things first. Like let's have the ball position, the aim, the handle lower, first things first. We can get your feet just a touch closer to it.
Okay.
I want to see you hit a couple of balls with just that in, without this here.
Sure.
And then we'll talk through some of the in-swing pieces.
All right.
So you take your setup where you feel comfy first. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I'll just take my normal.
Yeah, you go normal.
I'll just move the ball a little bit forward and do this still.
Good. Now the handle, your handle can go up, right, or down.
Yeah.
We would want that to be about right there,
okay.
which is belt buckle.
A little lower.
Then for you, be lower for sure. That would help the ball start more left. Now, from an aim perspective, we also want to make sure that club face points in an appropriate direction. So that should point here. So that might also mean, yeah, exactly, your feet aren't as closed. Good, good. Now this setup position, if the ball doesn't start to the left, it is not because of the setup then.
Okay.
So like normally if you have the face pointed right, high handle, closed stance line, ball back, okay, that ball's going to start to the right.
Yeah.
If we eliminate all those variables and the ball still starts to the right, then it's purely club face angle or off-centered contact.
Okay.
One of those two pieces. So I just want to eliminate these.
All right.
Better. There we go.
Yeah, a little better.
Yeah, it's closer. Now, obviously, I want to work to bring these two things in closer, which we'll talk about in a minute. But from a setup perspective, first things first. So there, you see the handle, even though it feels low to you.
Yeah, it's
just normal.
Looks good, yeah.
Yeah, belt buckle. So now, where your club face points, feet line's okay. We could be a touch more open with that. And then the ball position, the camera's just a little too far back with where that tee is. But that's effectively all like, okay, these would all be things that are going to help us start the ball ever so slightly to the left. Then the next question, it becomes, how do we tighten these? So if I pull this up here, how do we tighten these two numbers? How do we get these two closer together? Yeah. So in the beginning of doing this, I would say success would be how many balls in a row can we start slightly left of target?
Okay.
That'd be like step number one. Let's do it again. No balls starting right. Should be starting left.
Contact's not very good, but.
Yeah, good start line. One more. Yeah, no balls starting right, first things first.
All right.
Now, could your handle be too low at setup? Could the ball position be too far forward? Could you be aimed too far left? Absolutely. So like all these things, it's important you have a checkpoint for. So how low should the handle be, specifically in line with the belt buckle? Okay. How far forward, specifically underneath here. I think I would have used to taken that and like kept doing it, and all of a sudden my hands are down at the ground.
Down there, yeah.
You over-exaggerate. So I think the key is the checkpoints. You always want to reference ball to the armpit, handle in line with the belt buckle, and the club face pointed at your start line. That's universally true. Okay. And then you correlate your feels to that. So these aren't perfect yet. I mean, we got to improve these, but where can I start where I know the ball's not going to launch too far right? First things first. So let's do one more, and then we'll talk in swing a little bit. Ball position, handle, that looks great. Okay. Club face angle, good.
It's gonna be left.
Yeah, beautiful. So that's 4 in a row where no ball's starting to the right, right? So those setup pieces effectively change that for you. If your hips move too far forward towards the ball, would that be your weight moving toes, heels, toes? Yeah. Right. So always to fix a problem, you gotta feel the opposite, right? If I'm coming down and my weight goes towards my toes and my hips kick in, and the club head even sometimes gets outside the ball target line, I would need to feel like as you come down, you go right from like right heel into left heel, as if the hips were getting or staying deeper. Okay. Let's take your setup with those new pieces in there. So ball position. Yeah, good. Now, distance away from the ball, do you feel normal, closer, or farther?
I mean, I feel like I'm a little closer than normal, I guess, but not much.
Okay, can you go a 1/4 inch farther? Good, right there. Now from there, let's go up to the top of the swing and pause. Now from there down, your normal instinct is forward, right, towards the toes, towards the ball. And I want you to feel like your instinct now becomes from right heel into left heel. Okay. So you actually create some hip depth. Yeah, like exactly. That. Yeah, bingo. For these 1 or 2, I just want you to keep it simple with the weight in your feet, just to have a little bit more hip depth, then we'll put that little station in there. Okay. So your jobs here are to get the setup pieces good. So the ball position, the handle, location, all those, and then just have a general sense of hip depth and weight in your feet during the downswing. Okay. Goal is for the ball to start left of target. Right heel, left heel. Good, watch that ball, almost a good catch.
Almost got it.
The other thing too is like, it's very easy with your swing and all of our swings to get really lost in a micro element that might not look perfect on video and lose sight of what I want you to learn, which is the macro element. It doesn't matter how you swing necessarily, so long as you put the club on the ball to where, what's non-negotiable? To eliminate right drives, what's non-negotiable is the ball starts left, and then it curves within the fairway grid. Yeah. How is kind of, you could play around with, you know? Right. Because there's a couple pieces in your swing we could really dig in on, and you might hit it farther right for an initial period of time.
Right, which is like,
I would learn the pattern, and then optimize and tweak more. Yeah. So that to me would come from, I'm repeating this, but you having this setup station, being intentional about the start line and these couple pieces, I think solves a lot. But that's with like, there's things in your swing that we could fix that would fix some of that, but I don't think it gets you closer to the no OB right shots in the short term. Okay. Right? Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. Gotcha. So we have our setup pieces. First, the ball position slightly forward. We have the handle lower and the face angle. Good. Right heel, left heel for hip depth. Should be good. Yeah, good. So those, the direction and curve pattern, I'd be happy with all of those. Okay. No start right, no curve right.